Hi. Hello. Last time we left off, there's an ant on my desk. Okay, never mind. Hello, good sir. Could you please be right back? Hi. Hello. This is my third attempt at doing this intro. We have an incredibly important thing to take care of before we get everything started proper. There is currently an unnamed horse on the server, and we can't let that happen. Well, not server. We're in a single-player world now. It happens. Sometimes the more than 2-week Minecraft phase is not for everybody. It's a thing. So let's go ahead and take care of that before we do everything else, because oh boy, we're gonna get a lot of things done in this episode. It's quite the long one. Hello, Sugarcane. I actually had a friend suggest this name, so friend, you know who you are. This one's for you. Zonzon, the zombie horse, is now reality and canon in this world. We are absolutely gonna have to do a proper stall for these horses at some point. I'm beginning to feel like it's a bit unkind to be having such an elaborate looking village and zero stall. We'll do this at some point in the future. What is that sound? I hear a bee, but I keep running around and I don't see a bee. I even went ahead and used free cam, and there's no bee. There are chickens, but chicken don't make that. Oh. Those are beehives. Did I place a beehive with an inhabitant that's just been trapped here for the past 6 months? So that would be horrible, and I actually don't want to think about it. Good sir. I fear we do not have a stables yet, so okay, I guess he is so unhappy with our establishment that he is just straight up leaving. Wonderful. These animations are so incredibly silly. Well, so do you want to come in or not? Because that's a clear yes, I'll take it. So the reception's over there just in case you want anything. Can I trap you? Why is the instant Minecraft reaction always trying to trap something and farm it? Makes you think. Don't worry about it. He's exactly where he wants to be. That's a happy sigh. Oh boy, on the topic of trapping, I did not know you guys were here. What the... So clearly some of the resource packs are not agreeing. Why does it look... I can't. The chicken did lay some eggs though, and considering I've just recently updated the realm, I think I need to finally see the tiny baby chicks in person. So I'm not gonna see the tiny baby chicks in person. I did not think that that was possible. What was that, like 20 eggs, 19 eggs or something? Holy. Surely the warm chicken is gonna be nicer to me. What? Okay. Finally. Oh, you look like an abomination. Okay, we need to remove some of the resource packs because clearly they've not been updated. And I'm gonna guess it's one that is associated with these little guys. Okay, we fixed it. I don't know what it was, but look at that tiny little ball of dust. You know what it reminds me of? The dust sprites in Spirited Away. It is time to actually get on with the build, and in order to do that, we need quite a few resources. Mainly, honestly, clay and mangrove, just because of the color palette, and because mangrove is so hard to get, I am always running out. I'm actually quite curious, do you guys want to see these resource gathering time lapses, or should I just cut them from the next videos? Leave a comment. Okay, we've done a good amount of messing around, we've done a bit of resource gathering in the background, and I think at this point it's time to figure out a palette, lay it all down, and get to these buildings. Get that grey wool out of the way, get some shears, and put down some rocks. We have the beginnings of a palette in front of us, sticking to the usual reds and yellows, and clearly I've changed form and turned into a very, very cute cockatiel instead. What I want to do is kind of build these... I'm not sure if this is one thing or 3 things, but these 3 more or less at the same time. So we have well, easier time figuring out the different heights, placements, and shapes, I suppose. I'm quite excited for this one just by virtue of it being built into the rock and diagonal. Now, since this building is right across the other mansion and also a little bit bigger when it comes to the actual foundation and stuff, I'd say let's imitate the height. See, this is another moment in which I would really, really want for Minecraft to add the other block variations. And honestly, small little updates like the tiny takeover, etc. would just serve perfectly for that. Looking at it a bit closer, I think this one should be a different block. That way it feels a bit more like a crowded alleyway, because that way you can tell it's two actual different buildings. So let's choose the bricks for this one. Considering we already separated out one of the blobs, let's just go ahead and make 3 out of 1. Next thing we need to figure out are doors. So let's just grab a handful and see what we can do with them. I want to know where the entrances are so we can build the rest of the facade around them, obviously. And I'd rather do that job once than twice. But I also want to keep the doors interesting and not just add spruce doors everywhere, even though that would be the easiest choice. Just go for the village aesthetic and have everything look the same. Well, the Minecraft village aesthetic, that is. But I like my variations. We're gonna very, very quickly run back to the entrance of the village. And the reason for that is that this is more or less the viewing spot that I've kind of decided on. We want to build or adjust the heights of these buildings in such a way that the mountain that doesn't exist yet will always be framed. Hence me running around and taking screenshots from slightly different angles and spots. And obviously I could draw it out with wool, but I like mixing arts in mediums, so let's do that. Well, hopefully I've remembered to actually add those screenshots, but if not, it's totally fine as well. All right, let's finally get into it, assign colors to the builds and see what happens. Also, I quickly built this. I don't know, I quite like decorating and flower pots are a really good choice for that. I think we're gonna start with this one. The village seems to be a lot more reddish heavy on this side and a lot more yellow heavy on that side. Hence the decision to add the bamboo door on this side. So maybe we're gonna stick to jungle, packed mud and mud bricks for now. Maybe testing that out should be my priority right now. And sleeping. Sleeping is a good idea. All right, enough talking. Let's get on with it, hop into a timeline and see what's gonna happen. I mean, not to toot my own horn and all, but that looks pretty nice for a first leg of the village. Even went ahead to extend the roof a little bit so we can offer more of a realistic protection to the well that will eventually lie here. I'm quite happy. Now, what colors to use for the next one? I think granite is quite nice, and I've not used it that much yet. So maybe granite. And I must say, I quite enjoyed using the shelves over here. And of course over here. So perhaps we're gonna go for a nice little mixture of granite and jungle shelves. Let's go ahead and see what we're gonna do with that. I think it's gonna turn out fun. You guys don't know this. Well, you do know this now, but we're actually in the future. We're on the day that I'm editing this video, and I realized that I really got into building and forgot to record and talk for a lot of these parts, and we don't want to have a video full of just time lapses. So please do accept the rather awkward angles we're gonna go at right now, because obviously I have to hide the buildings that haven't shown up in the video just yet. I do want to talk about this little guy a little bit though. I enjoyed this one specifically so much. Haha, I just found a solution. A very big brain move. I feel like I'm on a film set or something. Anyway, I am extremely happy with this part specifically. I wanted to do an entrance that's different. Something that doesn't just look like a relatively normal door, even though that one, for example, has, you know, I like using trapdoors for doors. They're a bit different. They're fun. This one has a slightly different door, and yet this is a very unusual entrance for a Minecraft build. So I'm very, very happy with that one. I'm very proud of it. I love this little area. I like how covered everything is. I like how small it makes everything seem and feel. I like this back part. It's a good build. It's a very fun one. It's nice. And the next ones are going to be even more fun because they're going to be bigger. And that means more detailing. I just realized I'm gonna have to take down that concrete now. Well, that's gonna be a fun 2 minutes of my life. I will say that I was so emotionally attached to that boulder, it actually hurt to tear it down, but it kind of had to go for the build. We're just gonna have to rebuild the boulder. It's fine, we can do that. It will be in a better spot. Okay, those are done, and it's actually kind of crazy to see how much of a difference a handful of small little buildings can make. This looks like a proper little village at this point. I cannot believe how different the vibe is. It's quite nice. And we still kept that thing that I really, really wanted to keep, which is an empty space in this area here. And it's one that stays no matter where you really are in the city, and it's perfect. Which is also exactly why I wanted to keep the roofs in a very, very reddish color, because the mountain in the back is going to be quite gray. So that way it's going to be framed really nicely and have that contrast on top of everything else. I wanted to replicate that same kind of covered and small feeling that the other alleyways give, just by having the roofs also jut out a tiny bit and almost seemingly interlock in a way. So now we get to do perhaps my favorite thing ever, and I already kind of did it for these buildings, which is to detail. The only question is, how? Now, you may with good reason be wondering why we're suddenly in Resident Evil 9 instead of Minecraft. And the thing is, aside from a sudden bout of illness, I recently, about a month ago, started playing the Resident Evil games, specifically Resident Evil 9. And there's this section at the very beginning of the game, the one you're seeing in the background right now. Don't worry, there will be no spoilers. These are literally the first 2 minutes of the game you get to play. And it all takes place in a fantasy city called Renwood, which is very reminiscent of New York City. From the drab weather to the red brick buildings to the scaffolding everywhere and the overall mood of everybody walking around. It reminds me a lot of New York. And I like how cluttered it is. Obviously, the intention here is to make everything look broken down, put you on edge, etc. But it also just looks very lived in. It reminds me of normal alleyways I'd used to walk on, and it's something I want to replicate in Minecraft, albeit with a much more upbeat vibe than this one. There's this small section that you get into after talking to a police officer for a few seconds, and it's beautiful environmental storytelling that sets up everything for the remainder of the game. This is a corner left to rot, as you can tell by the trash piled up behind the fences, as you can tell by the caution tape around broken down hardware. But it's still a place that's actively lived in. You can see the live wires everywhere, you can see the birds living around, you can see the small staircases on the side of the buildings. The closer you get to your final destination, unintended, the more environmental signs warding you off, telling you to turn around. I want to imitate this. Obviously with a very different vibe, because our village is way more whimsical and fantasy-like than dreadful horror, but I definitely want to imitate the clutter and the very, very direct signs of life. To add more lampposts, to add more wires, to add hanging signs, to add washing lines, just everything to make the village look lived in, as if the villagers in Minecraft had a slightly more advanced AI. Wait, realization. I just wanted to add some interest. I remembered the pots exist, and then lightning rods and chains kind of have a very similar color. We can make these look like birds' nests. I just need to look at sherds, right? They're called sherds. Surely there are some sherds that can make it look like there's a hole on the side of these pots, so birds can fly into them. And then if we can have it look like birds can fly into them and use them as nests, we can place these little guys onto the roofs and stuff. It's coming together perfectly. I am McLoving this. Quick addendum, I just realized I've absolutely no clue how to take a good screenshot of this for the thumbnail. So hopefully I did a good enough job, because you're still here and watching, and I thank you for that. So I just had an idea. What if we build a small bridge or connecting part, I suppose, to, you know, connect these two buildings? I think that would look really cool. I see that sometimes in older middle-aged buildings that they have this kind of hallway tunnel thing connecting to like opposing buildings. And I think it kind of fits this alleyway quite a bit. I'm worried it might end up looking a bit too busy, but I mean, at this point, too busy doesn't exist in this world. I like my crowded blocks. So let's see how this works out. Also, shelves are fantastic. I feel like I've said this several times at this point, but man, they are fantastic. Wonderful block to have been added to this game. I love my fake vertical slab. Yeah, that's quite nice. Just gotta remove this one real quick. That's out of place. Well, here we are in the outro portion of this video. But before we do finish, there's something I really want to try. And would you look at that? I mean, so far I've always been playing and briefly using the Insanity shader just because it has a wonderfully moody vibe that fits the fishing hut aesthetic and stuff. But I feel like the village is a bit more whimsical at this point, so I wanted to try something more bright and colorful, and this is ridiculous. My face is hurting a little bit from how widely I am smiling at this point. It is so wonderful to be noticing a missing block. It is so wonderful to be able to just enjoy and see your builds in such detail. It's crazy. This is so cool. I really should stop complimenting myself the entire time, but this is insane. Pun intended again. I'm very excited to attempt some interiors next week or next time. Just a brief look behind the curtains. Yeah, maybe we are not exactly done with interiors at all. But these small additions have honestly done a lot so far. Very excited for what's to come. Very excited to be back, and we'll see each other soon. Bye bye. Have a good time.